I had a reputation in BP. I'd say if people said, what are you going to get with Ann? I mean, top three things was always going to be that I created great cultures. And there were plenty of things you weren't going to get with me. You'd never want 6 Anns on your leadership team, trust me. But but that was important to me. And I think it's because at the time our CEO really understood that brand was the root of strategy and culture. Mm-hmm. And even with the rebranding of BP, which I was able to be there and participate in, it was inspiring. It was really more about inclusion and unifying all these brands he had acquired under one badge. And so it started to really become a natural part of who I am. My first startup, I felt like I found that culture really fast. And it was a vibe you could feel. And it was the same expression of what we promised customers externally. Mm-hmm. It took me longer with Super League. And it's interesting that, again, with that hesitancy I had to even justify my own reason for why I was the right person for the job to run the company, the culture naturally lagged as well, because I didn't have my conviction. And frankly, too, you know, there still is that old adage, one bad apple. It really is all it takes. It doesn't matter how big your company is. You know, when people want to, you know, have the second meeting out in the parking lot or roll their eyes when you're talking about the vision of the company, you know, it really does infect the organization. I just recently, and it's strange really that I feel like it started to really take off in the pandemic. As soon as we went remote only, we just did a final reset of the org. Maybe a crisis forced us to say, who's on the bus and who isn't? And maybe again, because we're in a pandemic, we all needed each other and our jobs more. But something magical started to happen. I mean, if you think about it now, 75% of my org I've never met in person, because we've bought other companies and, you know, and we haven't been using an office. And so, but yet I feel connected to them. I see them at home. I know their dogs. I still feel a relationship with them. But we just kind of, for the first time, and we've been around 6 years, but for the first time, we were able to see that a pattern was emerging where the things we stood for internally were the same things that our brand stood for. And I think that's the secret. That's like the silver bullet. Mm. And so for us, it's like we say, look, we're about empowering everyday creators so that they can, you know, entertain their audiences, the people who watch their game viewing and streaming, and energize the player base. And so that notion of empower and energize and entertain is like 3 things that I ask myself. Do you feel that way when you work here? Because if you can say you feel those words, or even 2 of the 3, we're on the right track. Those are pretty special words to say. And the other thing that I've started to introduce a bit is, you know, it's really time to start being exceptional. We're a public company on NASDAQ, and we're early in our revenue story, and we don't have time to mess around. So if you're in for being exceptional, even if your bar is, you know, you're young and you're just learning what that means, but start defining it and give a darn, frankly, about that word. And if we can do that, I think that we might have finally found a fit between brand and culture that was eluding us for some time, because gaming industry in general likes to be edgy and a little irreverent. Mm-hmm. And yet we were building a brand that wasn't based on those tenets. And I just think we chose to be different. And I think we finally found our way.